Góðan daginn. Hi, and welcome to Icelandic for Foreigners. Today we're going to be talking about Icelandic grammar, specifically the subject pronouns and the verb to be. Now, in case you need some review, a pronoun replaces a noun. A subject pronoun is replacing the subject of the sentence. Now, just for a review, the subject of the sentence is the noun or the pronoun that is doing the action that the sentence is about. The personal pronouns in English are I, we, you, he, she, it, and they. And we're about to see that these roughly correspond with subject pronouns in Icelandic. So first we have the first person subject pronouns. So you have I, which in Icelandic is ég, we, which is við. For second person we have two different forms. We have you singular, þú, and you plural, þið. And then for third person, we have a pronoun for each gender. So we have he, hann, she, hún, and it, það. And then we also have a plural they for masculine, feminine, and neutral. We have þeir is the masculine form for they, þær is the feminine form, and þau is the neuter form. Now I'd like to add a couple notes about these. The first is that hann, hún, and það, while in English we may correspond these with he, she, and it, in Icelandic they can all mean it. And the reason for that is because every noun in Icelandic has a gender. So if the noun that you're replacing is a masculine noun, then you're going to use hann to replace it. The next note is that þeir, þær, and þau all mean they. It just depends on the gender of the nouns that they're replacing. So plural masculine, plural feminine, or plural neuter. So they can all mean they. They can also mean it in certain circumstances, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. The last thing to point out here is the word þið. Now in English we don't have a plural you all form, but in Icelandic you do. So whenever you're addressing a group of more than one person, you'll say þið for a you all. That's the plural you. All right, now it in Icelandic, saying it is slightly more complicated than in English. Now in general, the word is það. That's the subject pronoun for neuter, meaning the thing that you're referring to doesn't have a gender. So we use this for very general statements. For example, það er gott. It is good. We're not referring to anything in particular, so we just use það. It's neutral. We're not referring to a noun with any gender. So that means it or that is good. Það er bíll. It is a car, or that is a car. Now, even though bíll, car, is a masculine word, we start the sentence by saying það, it is, because we don't know what we're referring to yet. Once we get to bíll, then we know what we're talking about. But we're going to use það to begin, because we're just talking in general, it, that, not anything in particular. Það er rautt. That means it is red, or that is red. Again, we're not talking about something in particular yet. We're just talking about something that the speaker sees or knows about. Now, it can get more complicated once we start talking about nouns that have a certain gender and replacing them. So take a look at this sentence. Það er bíll. Hann er nýr. So here we have the masculine pronoun, hann er nýr. So this sentence would mean, that is a car, he is new. But the more correct translation would be, that is a car, it is new, because bíll is a masculine noun. So now that we're talking about bíll, now that we're talking about the car, we're going to use the masculine pronoun to talk about it. So we're going to use hann. He is new, because cars are he in Icelandic. In this sentence, það er bók, hún er löng. So hún is the feminine pronoun. It is a book, or that is a book. It is long would be the best translation, even though we're technically saying she is long. Það eru nýjar buxur, þær hæfa mér vel. So though this is the feminine plural form, þær, those are new pants, they fit me well. They is in feminine plural because buxur is feminine plural. And the last sentence, það eru jakkaföt, þau líta vel út. So þau is the neuter plural form, and that's because jakkaföt, which means a suit, like that you wear, is a neuter plural word. So the best translation would be, that is a suit, it looks good. Even though we're using the word þau, it's referring to jakkaföt. It doesn't have to do with its actual gender, just the gender of the word in Icelandic, neuter plural. We'll talk about gender in more depth in a video that's soon to come, which will talk a little bit more about this. All right, let's talk a little bit about the verb að vera. Probably the most important verb in Icelandic. It's also the most irregular, as it is in many languages. So let's go ahead and look at all of its different forms in the present tense. I am would be ég er. You are would be þú ert. And watch out for that voiceless R. If you're forgetting what that sounds like or how to make it, then go ahead and check out my pronunciation video on the letter R. But just watch out for that. We're not going to say ert. We're going to say ert with the voiceless R. He, she, it is. We're going to say hann er, hún er, and það er. We are is við erum. You all are is þið eruð. And then they are is þeir eru, þær eru, and þau eru. This is the only verb in Icelandic where the þeir, þær, and þau form isn't the same as the infinitive. Okay, an important part of the verb að vera is what comes on the other side. If you're saying I am something or she is something, we need what's called the predicate, the second half of the sentence. Now there are three types of words that can come after að vera, and that is a noun, an adjective, or a pronoun. So here's an example. Ég er Íslendingur. So we have I am an Icelander. Íslendingur is a noun. Þú ert glöð. You are happy. Glöð is an adjective. And the last example, hún er það, which technically means she is it. Það is a pronoun, and that's something that you would hear in Icelandic but not so much in English. It essentially means that she is. It's sort of an affirmative statement. Now, it's very important to recognize that the form of the noun or the adjective or the pronoun that follows að vera is always in the nominative form. And if you're having a hard time remembering what that means, I strongly recommend you go and check out my other video about Icelandic cases, because it's really important that you use the right form and that you know what that means and how you find it. So the two sides of að vera are both nominative. Ég and Íslendingur in that first example are both nominative. Þú and glöð are both nominative. Hún and það are both nominative. And that's just the way that að vera works. Okay, as for making questions with the verb að vera, we're going to do it in the same way that we make questions in Icelandic generally, which is we reverse the subject and the verb. So in the case of ég er is the statement, I am. If we want to make it a question, we're just going to reverse them. Er ég, am I? And þú ert, we're going to say ert þú. Or the shortened form of this is ertu. You'll see that spoken and written. And it's important to recognize that here we don't have the u sound, we have ertu. This is just the result of people asking this question so many times that it led to a shortened form. So you're free to say ert þú and say both words clearly, or you can just say ertu. Now the last thing that I'd like to talk about with the verb að vera is existential sentences. These are the sentences like, there are people in Iceland, there are polar bears in Greenland, etc. In Icelandic we have two forms, one for a singular noun and one for a plural noun. So the two that we are going to use is það er and það eru. And the best translation for this is there is and there are. So the example for það er is það maður í bankanum. There is a man in the bank. So even though the technical meaning of the word is it is a man in the bank, the translation here is one of these existential sentences. There is a man in the bank. Same with það eru lundar á Íslandi. There are puffins in Iceland. And again here, það eru means, technically it means it are, but in this case it makes an existential sentence. There are puffins in Iceland. That's all I have for you today. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bless, bless.